What up, everybody? Welcome to a Sunday morning edition of The Sweat, part of the pregame power-up here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. 5 straight hours of football goodness leading up to kickoff of the 1 o'clock Eastern slate. So much positivity and betting advice and DFS goodness sprinkled in here for the next 2 hours. Julian Edlow back live with us in studio. Steve Buchanan, Josh Applebaum. I'm Emerson Latzia. Who's ready to do that thing our viewers like for the next 2 hours? Jules, are you ready?
I'll try my best.
Okay, great. I can feel the energy, baby. Here's what's coming up, everybody. This is on the menu. Propped up. We'll talk some best prop bets ahead of the main chunk of the Week 11 slate today. Michael Lombardi will join the show coming up. Belichick moving on, where he could land possibly next after his tenure with the Patriots is over. If it is, Super Bowl rematch. We're going to dive real deep into some bets tomorrow night. Game of the week by far, Eagles and the Chiefs. But right now, Week 11 slates, everybody, we know, kicked off on Thursday night between the Bengals and the Ravens. It was injury-riddled. It was ugly. It was unfortunate. So let's start here with another AFC North showdown, shall we? And that is going to be the Steelers at the Browns, Steve. Without Deshaun Watson the rest of the way, this game just got a whole lot tougher, I think, for Cleveland. So who are you siding with in this one, and why is it Pittsburgh?
Yeah, without a doubt, and it is Pittsburgh here. We talked about this yesterday on the show, how Pittsburgh's path to the playoffs is just unbelievable with the amount of backup quarterbacks they're going to be playing over the next 2 months, basically, here. And this starts here today against Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I mean, I think this pass rush from Pittsburgh is just going to be too much for him to handle here. I mean, in Week 2, when Pittsburgh played the Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson was under pressure on 40% of the dropbacks that he had in that game. So now we have Pittsburgh as road underdogs in this game against Cleveland. I know the strength for the Browns has been their defense. Nothing is really going to change there. But offensively, what are they really realistically going to get going in this game against Pittsburgh, who, by the way, has been very strong against the spread, 6-3 overall on the year, 4-2 against the spread as an underdog, which they are here today at 2.5 points. Have to side with Pittsburgh in this one here. I just don't think that the Browns are going to get anything going offensively in this game.
What's the lean you have for this one, Josh?
So I tell you what, Emerson, I was kind of all over Pittsburgh throughout the week, but I'm getting a little nervous because there has been some buyback here on the Cleveland Browns over the last 24 hours. Remember, this game opened as high as -4.5. Got all the way down to around a pick'em. Obviously, that was the news that Watson's going to be out and DTR is going to start this game. But we were sitting around 1.5 yesterday. Now we're up to 2.5, and it's becoming a little bit of a fade the trendy dog play. You're getting, as of right now, only 40% of bets on the Browns, but more than 50% of the money, and the line is moving in their favor. So I got to respect kind of this game day money, and anytime you see game day money coming in, that's when the limits are raised, biggest bets come in. I think if you're playing Pittsburgh here, I think you tease them up 2.5 to 8.5. Go through a couple key numbers in such a low total game where points are at a premium. Maybe somehow the Browns eke out a short win. You want to cover in that tease. I would pair them with the Jags, Emerson. By the way, nice sweatshirt today, my man. I like that move toward the Jags. We'll get to that later. But I would just say super low total. It was 37. It's down to 33. I don't hate still taking the under in this one. It seems so low, it's got to go over. Remember yesterday with the Iowa game, low total, it's got to go over. No, it stayed under. Sean Hockley, Mr. Guns Jr. here, he's 60% to the under historically. I'd lean under, and again, it's a tough one. I'm thinking about if I'm playing the Steelers, I want to tease them up now at this point.
Jules, you've got those Hockley muscles on your body. The under
I hide them well.
Yeah, you certainly do underneath those incredible flannels of yours. The under 4-1 for the Browns at home this season. Perfect 3-0 for the Steelers on the road. This is a low total, 33 currently in the DK Sportsbook.
And I do agree with Josh. This would be under or nothing for me if I'm playing the total. I think it's going to be pretty ugly. The only pushback I can give on the Steelers side of things is that defense did just look meh against Jordan Love and the Packers, and they've had some injuries since then. And maybe DTR, I know he looked awful against the Ravens in his debut. Yep. Maybe he's learned a little bit, come along since then. But that said, I'm not putting my faith in the Browns in this game. I can't back the Browns. It would be Steelers or pass. It would be under or pass. I just think we're not going to get much from that offense that wasn't even doing much with Watson to begin with. Pittsburgh, they're this year's Vikings, really. The way that they're getting lucky, they're winning all these one-possession games. The schedule then falls to them of, you're going to have this tough game against the Browns and the Bengals, and now you're going up against DTR and Jake Browning in those games. The win total was 8.5 preseason. It goes to 9.5. And then with these games coming up, it moves to 10.5. Maybe it's just Pittsburgh's year. They squeeze out another one-score game. But it's tough to back them with the way that they're playing as well, going up against a good defense on the road in the division that's already seen them.
All right, you mentioned the Packers. Let's get to that game today, hosting the Chargers, a game featuring really two teams that badly need a victory here, Jules. LA currently a field goal favorite on the road. Green Bay 1-4 straight up in games decided by 3 points or less. So what you got here?
Yeah, I don't have much faith in the Packers overall, but you look at those betting splits, very public play on the road favorite Chargers. So ultimately, it's a game I'm going to pass on the side. The Chargers are the type of team that can go on the road to Green Bay in the cold and just look awful in a game like this, despite all the weapons that they have. So this is a tough one to feel out. If you told me I had to bet this game, I would say I'm going to wait until I start watching it and decide how I think this is going to go and make a live play. Because you could tell me either team goes up 17-0 to start this game, and I would say I believe you.
All right, Bukes. 4-5 ATS records, both of these teams, kind of reflects the fact of how difficult they have both been to trust this year.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a great point there, too, because on paper, I think these are two teams that are better looking on paper than they have actually performed on the field here. But I will say, I think Jordan Love has looked better over the past couple of weeks. Last 3 weeks, he's averaging just under 250 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's been limiting the interceptions, so that's been a major problem for him in the first half of the season here. And the Chargers allowing the most passing yards to opposing quarterbacks, an average of 315 per game here. So I think the over is in play on this one here at 44 points. Both these teams really aren't good at hitting the over to begin with. They're a combined 7-11 here, but I think that the Chargers can get something going on the ground here. The Packers can beat the Chargers through the air. I think we're going to get over 44 points in this game.
Is there a bet that stands out to you for Chargers-Packers?
You guys are going to love this, and by love, I mean you're going to hate it. I like Packers +3 in this one. It's just so disgusting.
I thought we were going to start talking
makes no
wins,
sense.
to be honest.
I won't go
That's
win
where
on
I
you,
thought he
Steve.
was going to.
I won't go win, Donnie, but I do agree with your over. It opened 42. It's up to 44. You maybe get some points in this one. But really, the nuts and bolts, Julian kind of alluded to it. 80% of bets are on the Chargers. It's one of the most popular plays of the day. But Chargers at one point were -3, -3.5. 3.5s are down to 3, and all these 3s are juiced up toward the Green Bay side, +3 at -115. It may get down to 2.5. So to me, it's just a contrarian angle here. I would have to hold my nose and take Green Bay +3.
You could really make a case for either side. So I like it, no matter what Josh said for a side. I mean, I think you can make a case for it.
Why does it feel like Cowboys-Panthers, Steve, has blowout written all over it?
Oh, I don't think so at all. I think
Really?
this goes under 42.5. And the problem is like I have no doubt that the Cowboys are going to score. I don't know how the Panthers are going to score in this game. Like, how is Bryce Young going to move the ball in this game? That Panthers offensive line cannot block. Now you're going up against literally one of the best pass rushing teams in the league in the Dallas Cowboys here. I think the Panthers have a rookie center starting this week too as well. I think they lost their starting center last week. I think they're on their third starting center so far this season here. So it's not a matter of if I think the Cowboys are going to score. It's a matter of if the Panthers are going to put up the points needed to get the over here. There is that potential that the Cowboys put up all the points needed in this game to go over. We've seen that before already with this team, but I really worry about the Panthers. So I would lean on the under. Really, if anything here, I'm probably just playing the team total over for the Cowboys.
Yeah, Josh, Cowboys bounced back from that Eagles loss. They blew out the Giants, and then the Panthers losing at Chicago on Thursday, and their offense just looks absolutely anemic right now.
Yeah, it feels like a blowout for Dallas. I mean, but I can't get there, Emerson. I'm kind of with Steve on this one, just in terms of a hugely lopsided play. Over 80% of bets here are on the Cowboys. Now, they opened -9.5. They're up to 10.5. But if you look at the line movement throughout the week, this game got to 11. When it got to 11, to Steve's point, there was some buyback there on +11, bring it back down to 10.5. I think if you're going to play Dallas, this is kind of what you want to put in the back of your back pocket. Double-digit favorites, guys. Double-digit favorites. It's been a weird year. Typically, you want to take the dog in those spots historically, but this year, double-digit favorites have been covering. They're 9-3 against the spread, and we have 3 system matches today. Miami laying big points, Dallas, obviously, and then San Francisco. So do I want to take, Bryce Young in the points? Not really, but at least this holds me from playing Dallas. I just think it's too public and, again, too popular.
All right, big chunk of points there, Jules. Panthers, NFL worst, 1-6-2 ATS on the year.
Yeah, I don't think Dallas is going to be the team. We have 6 games now with a spread of more than a touchdown today. It was 7 when Jacksonville, Tennessee was at 7, and it's down to 6.5 now. At least one of these teams is going to lose. It's not going to be Dallas. Carolina's just, I don't think that they have it in them to win a game like this against Dallas, not only because of the offense, but more because of the defense that Dallas is going to take on the road here and just how bad that Panther offense has been. That said, Dallas plays at home on Thanksgiving. It's a short week. They're coming off a division game. They're going back into a division game. There's just a lot of moving pieces here where I think that Dallas can look by the Panthers. Now, I don't think that'll bite them. If you're using them in Survivor or a moneyline parlay or whatever, I don't think that's going to be the piece that gets you. But it could be a closer game than we expect just because Dallas is in kind of a weird spot.
Hey, Bukes, real quick here. Justin Fields is back for the Bears. How does that impact your approach to betting this one against the Lions?
Yeah, it honestly makes me like the Lions more. I mean, the Bears have not been a good team with Justin Fields under center. They're 1-5 ATS with Fields starting in this game. Detroit's been one of the best teams against the spread, 7-2 coming into this game. Weird number here at 8, but I think Detroit covers in this one.
Jules, Chicago 1-4 straight up on the road this season, and they average more than 2 turnovers per game in those losses, too.
Yeah, not a game that I see the Bears winning, but like I said, one of these teams that's a big favorite is probably going to go down today because this is how this works. It's a divisional game, maybe makes things a little bit different, but yeah, I think that Fields coming back and the point spread getting shorter makes me, I'm not betting a side in it, but it makes me lean to Detroit more, getting a better number with Fields back in.
All right, we'll get to the rest of the Week 11 slate coming up, but right after this break, we'll see which props land on these guys' betting cards. Is it DTR time in Cleveland?
Probably not.
You're watching DraftKings Network's Sunday Pregame Power-Up.
All right, back here on The Sweat, everybody. We just kicked off 5 straight hours of pregame coverage, getting you set for 1 o'clock Eastern. So following us here on The Sweat, it's Michael Lombardi And Miss Stormy Bonantoni. Did I get that right? Bonantoni.
Really
That's right.
butchered it.
Bonantoni.
Yeah. So with the Lombardi line there, that Brent Musburger is going to count us down to kick off pregame power up here on DraftKings Network and VSiN. So let's get into the props department right now, shall we? And let's get back to Cleveland, where we know, again, no Deshaun Watson the rest of the year. Jules, you mentioned earlier how bad DTR was in his first game of the season, right? Back in week 4, I think that was, against the Ravens. Are we chasing any overs here with him this afternoon? And if not, what's just your favorite quarterback passing yard prop overall?
Yeah, can't be chasing the DTR props. I don't know what we're going to expect. We have both quarterbacks set at under 172 passing yards for the game.
It's got to be a banger.
we see that in the total. So really what I'm looking for, and I know we have this market on DraftKings Sportsbook, is team rushing props. The Steelers give up yards on the ground. They haven't been good against the run. And we saw it in that game that Chubb got hurt earlier in the year. Chubb was having a great game, and then Ford came in and had a very good game. So the Browns are gonna run the ball as a team. So you can look to some of those. I'm completely ignoring the passing prop question and saying we're just going to go right to the rushing props. Take team rushing props with Cleveland.
Stuff.
Go to the running backs, even DTR if you want to get out of the pocket, do some running. They're going to move the ball on the ground and not so much through the air.
Producer Drew hates you right now. Quarterback passing yards.
I don't care
prop,
much for Drew either.
Well, relax, bucko.
So there's two that I think are in play here in this one. Starting with DTR, you can get under 194.5 rushing and receiving yards at minus 115. We just talked about how that Browns offensive line has just been ravaged with injuries here. That lone start that DTR made, he was averaging 4 yards per pass attempt in that game against the Ravens here. I don't think he's going to get much going at all. For a passing prop that I do like, though, and I kind of alluded to this in the first segment there, Jordan Love to go over 229.5. I mentioned that the Chargers are allowing an average of 315 passing yards per game. I think Jordan Love's been looking better as of late. Not going to get a ton of pressure on him from the Chargers there, whose pass rush has been basically average at best here. But on the completions that opposing quarterbacks have against the Chargers, they're averaging 12 yards per reception. Give me Jordan Love over 229.5.
What you want in the passing yards department today?
So I think what's interesting about DTR is the Browns brought in Joe Flacco and said, we don't want you. We're going to stick with DTR in this spot. They could have gone to Walker. No, they go to DTR. So it tells me within the building that they believe in this kid. Now, he didn't look very good in his one start earlier this year against the Ravens. They lost 28-3. He was only 19 of 36 for 121 yards. Now, to throw a pick, because he threw 3 picks in that one game he started, it's over a half pick at minus 180. That's a little pricey for me, even though it does feel like he might throw one. So I'm going to look toward his completions and his attempts. I noticed they're both really juiced up in different directions. Under 15.5 completions is minus 120. I would take the under there. They might run the ball a lot. It's a low total. Are they going to play it safe? That could make a lot of sense and focus on the run. Over 25.5 attempts is minus 130. I'll lean toward that under there, Emerson. I do agree with Steve. I like the Jordan Love over just because it actually was 227.5 yesterday, so it's gone up a little bit. But I'll give you another one. Jared Goff over 1.5 touchdowns. Can Goff get you 2 TDs today? It's really juiced up minus 145. Bears are in the bottom 5 in pass defense. Goff's gone over this number in 3 of his last 5 games. You're in a dome. The total's on the rise. Give me Goff 2 TDs or more.
DTR returns today. Kyler Murray returned last week. Ended up leading a game-winning drive there for the Cardinals. So he goes over his rushing prop last week. Don't worry about that. What's another quarterback prop other than passing yards, Steve, that you were looking at?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I do like that Jordan 1 level a lot too. Again, you can get him at over 1.5 passing touchdowns as well. I think this game's just going to go back and forth between these two teams. Like I said a number of times here, you can beat that secondary for the Chargers here. So I think that's a play you want to go. Really going to focus on Jordan Love in this game here against the Chargers.
Okay, for you. How about Kyler? Another over on rushing yards?
That could be enticing to me. I mean, to me, my angle here in terms of like rushing, I'll go to David Montgomery. I mean, we're going to hit on this in a second here, but minus 150 anytime TD. I think that's a play here to get in the end zone. He's gone. He actually had 12 for 116 against the Chargers last week. You're worried a little bit that he's going to split with Gibbs, but I would look toward Montgomery in this one. And then also Najee Harris, under 43.5 rushing yards, minus 120. It feels like it's a low number. This is just so fishy because Najee Harris is actually actually been pretty good. He's run for 69 and 82 yards his last 2 games, yet this is all the way down to 43.5 and it's juiced up under. I think maybe the Cleveland defense stifles Najee Harris. I'd go Harris under 43.5 and Montgomery to get in the end zone.
Okay, so you and Jules
I mixed
just
it up on you,
completely bouncing all over the rundown.
We're testing
here.
your skills as a host. You just got to go with it.
It's perfectly.
Steve will get you back on
perfectly
track.
fine. Absolutely. Did you have any other quarterback props besides the one you mentioned in the first question, which was not an answer to the question I was asking you?
Correct. I do have a quarterback prop, and guess what? I'm going back to a rushing prop with a quarterback. We're going to Jacksonville here, where Trevor Lawrence is dinged up.
Yeah.
He's not right. The knee isn't right. It was 15.5 rushing yards. You look at it this morning, it's down to 14.5 with minus 140 juice to the under. That is because Trevor Lawrence is playing hurt. We're going to go under there. He's not going to be running the ball. Your Jags can still win, but he's not gonna run the ball.
They'll win, and we'll dive into some of Trevor Lawrence's numbers here coming up, and also that game against the Titans. I mean, he's got a hell of a lot of weapons to choose from. And speaking of that, wide receiver props. So this one is very wide open. You guys can kind of go wherever you want, as long as it's a freaking wide receiver right now. What is your favorite wide receiver prop on the board today, Josh?
Ooh, I'm going to go with a tight end in this. Just kidding, Emerson. I'm not going to screw with
I mean,
you.
I think that would actually fly for this. That flies.
Pass catcher, I guess, technically.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go to my one of my favorite wide receivers from a betting angle. Amon-Ra St. Brown, over 84.5 receiving yards. It's juiced up, minus 115. Mentioned the Bears a second ago, kind of tying in the Goff TDs over 1.5 with a big passing game here. A lot of the wide receivers on the against the Browns. They're actually 26 in pass defense, giving up almost 250 yards per game. Amon-Ra St. Brown has had 100 or more receiving yards in 6 of his last 7 games. In his 3 home games that he's played, he's gone 100 yards or more in all 3. I like him maybe to get in the end zone as well, plus 105 anytime TD. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown should be one of your wide receivers to target today in a big matchup, in a very good matchup against this bad pass D of the Bears.
Dude is going to absolutely feast. I know you've been high on him a couple times this season, Steve, but who are you targeting in the props department for wide receivers today?
Exactly
right there?
where I was.
There we go.
Exactly where
You're
I was.
just
I
riding
was with
this
you on
dude.
Jordan
Yeah.
Love passing too, over. Yeah.
So he's been making everyone a lot of money then, I'm assuming, this season because you keep going back to him.
I mean, you look at over the past 5 games, he's averaging just under 12 targets per game. Like, he has been the bona fide wide receiver one. Not that he wasn't already, but between him and Sam Laporta, like, these have been the 2 main guys that Jared Goff has been targeting at this point. Going to see a lot of Kyler Gordon in coverage too, as well, cornerback for the Bears here, allowing a 75% reception rate as well. So you can take a look at maybe his receptions as well. I believe it's at 6.5 right now, but really love Amon-Ra St. Brown in this matchup here against the Bears. I think he's going to be one of the highest scoring wide receivers in terms of daily fantasy, and then cashing those overs too as well.
Okay, Jules, this is when you talk about a wide receiver, tight end, receiving prop, whatever you want to do here.
Yeah, I'm just going to steal Steve's homework and copy it because he's been talking about Jordan Love in this passing prop, yet you look at the receiving props for the Green Bay Packers against the Chargers, nobody is above 40 yards.
Yeah.
Christian Watson, 39.5. Luke Musgrave, 28.5. Romeo Doubs, 34.5. Jaden Reed, 33.5. Like, multiple of those guys are going over. So, like, they're just too low. So I think there's a couple of guys in there that you can play. Watson obviously is the highest. He stands out the most. He's been the best receiver. But Jaden Reed's been playing well of late there at 33.5. Dobbs, 34.5. Like, you're getting at least 2 of those 3 receivers going well over, I would say, in this game.
All right, so you have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, Jared Goff. You talked about kind of the
I'm loaded up on this game, Emerson.
You really
Yeah, I
are.
got a lot of action.
You've already mentioned like the David Montgomery angle of this and how much he's adding the explosiveness to like the running game there with Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, the Bears defense is going to be picked apart, it feels like, by this balance. Any other running back props that you like today besides the one about Montgomery that you mentioned like 5 minutes ago?
I would say Jerick McKinnon kind of piques my interest a little bit, Emerson, because Jerick McKinnon, if you remember in the Super Bowl, I think he had almost like 34 receiving yards. He had like 20 rushing yards as well. I think you could play him on his over his over receiving. I think it's 15.5 or maybe it's like 20. It's a low number here, but McKinnon is a guy who, again, and I think that's the advantage if you're going to bet this game, which probably everyone is tomorrow night, is we have a box score to recreate from the Super Bowl. Not saying that everything's going to be the same. There's different players. There's been changes that have been made. But to me, McKinnon's a guy that, you know, when the bullets are flying and you need to make a big play, he's someone that Patrick Mahomes trusts. So I would go over his rushing and receiving combined.
Bukes, what do you got here, dude?
My favorite bet of the day here. It's an alternate rushing and receiving yard line for Breece Hall to go over 100 yards. It's at plus 165 right now. Just the Bills are allowing the second most receiving yards to opposing running backs per game here, over 49 per game, 4.5 yards per carry on the ground for opposing running backs. This is a blow-up spot here for Breece Hall. If the Jets are going to win today, they need to get the ball to Breece Hall. Give me over 100 rushing and receiving combined, plus 165.
All right, good stuff, guys. Coming up, we're going to get to the rest of the slate this afternoon, see which bets you're targeting, including in that Titans-Jaguars game, and how much caution you should be using when betting America's team. right, let's get after more of this Week 11 slate right now here on The Sweat, everybody. Part of the pregame power-up on DraftKings Network and VSiN. Starting in the division here of the working man. We're talking about the AFC South. And the Titans come crawling into Jacksonville to face the Jaguars, who are coming off a reality check against San Francisco and the 49ers. And the reality of the season for the Jags so far really is Trevor Lawrence has struggled to put up numbers. Like, they're winning, sure, but not in a super sexy fashion. Like the hair on Trevor Lawrence's head, he has not advanced to a level of achievement most expected him to this year.
It's an interesting way of saying that.
Yeah, you know what? You mentioned the Jags game earlier, Joe, so I'll start with you here. Doug Peterson did say this past week that the offense has been somewhat limited by Trevor Lawrence's health and his banged up knee, which is why you're taking the under on his rushing yards prop. But are you proceeding with caution here in terms of betting the Jags against the lowly Titans?
Yeah, I mean, he's just Mac Jones with long hair, right?
Wow,
No, that's not true. That's not true.
That's
Honestly,
very
dude, you
insulting.
lost all credibility. And
Get off the set. You're out.
seriously, you should leave
I
right now.
wanted
You're
to make
pathetic.
you angry, and it worked. Trevor Lawrence is hurt. We can't grade him because he's playing hurt. So, yes, the under, which is getting bet pretty hard, the under on Trevor Lawrence's rushing yards is my play in this game. It's the only thing that I've bet so far on Sunday. I have a Monday night play, but that's the only thing I've bet so far. It's a good day for props.
Oh.
I think that the Tennessee can hang in this game. The 7 would maybe interest me. That's gone. It's down to 6.5. Jacksonville is going to be a popular survivor piece probably today because a lot of people are in a situation to use them. A lot of these other giant favorites have either been used or you need to save them for later. I would advise a little caution, but I do ultimately think that they get through.
I mean, definitely helps, Steve, that they're 6-3 ATS on the season. Talking the Jags here in Tennessee, 1-4 ATS on the road this year. I think this is their third straight road game as well, which has got to be brutal.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I mean, I still like Jacksonville in this game. Like, I'm just kind of putting away what I saw last week against the 49ers. And when that defensive line is in your face, you're not going to get much going offensively, regardless of who you are at this point. But one thing that Jacksonville does exceptionally well, and this is going to take away from Tennessee, is they stop the run. They're only allowing an average of 3.5 yards per carry, 567 total rushing yards allowed to opposing running backs on the year. That's one of the lowest in the league. So that means they're going to have to rely upon Will Levis to throw the ball. If there was a time or a matchup that Will Levis was supposed to exceed in and throw the ball well, it was last week against Tampa Bay, and he looked god-awful in that game. 19 for 39 in pass completions, which is a 48% completion rate, 5.1 yards per attempt in this one. Last week there, give me the Jaguars in this one.
Yeah, the expectations were so high for Levis after what C.J. Stroud did to the Bucs
Absolutely.
the week prior to that. And
Never
part
trust
of me
a
is
man that stirs mayo into his coffee.
Yeah, love a
Sounds
good,
delicious.
love a good little dab of mayo
Josh is
there in their
untrustable.
black coffee. I am a little concerned, like possibly a look-ahead spot here for the Jags because of next week's AFC South showdown with Houston in Houston. But in terms of today, what do you like?
So I'm going to stick with your Jags, Emerson. I do like this spot toward the Jags for a couple of reasons. I would just mention Trevor Lawrence is under passing TDs, 1.5 under, -125. I can't believe this. Maybe I haven't been paying enough attention to your team, Emerson. He's gone 1 TD or less in 7 of his last 8 games. So
Yeah.
he has not been throwing 2 or more. So I'd
of
lean
gross.
under there.
Mac Jones-esque.
Mac Jones
Not as many
throw
picks, though.
touchdowns.
Yeah, that's
I know,
true.
At
neither
least
does Trevor
he
Lawrence.
throws a touchdown. Be quiet, Josh. Continue.
Well, I would just say this line is moving toward Jacksonville. They opened as low as 5.5, 6. Now they did get to 7. There was some buyback there on Vrabel getting 7, bring it back down to 6.5. Vrabel is a coach who's great. ATS as a dog. Same thing with Mike Tomlin. But here's the angle that I'm going to kind of lean on if I'm going to play Jacksonville. I'll lay the points here. You can tease them down. You can pair them with the Pittsburgh Steelers if you want. But teams off a blowout loss of 30 points or more. This is what the betting public says. You got blown out last week. I want nothing to do with you. But no, those are the teams that you want to buy low on because they're really undervalued. You lose by 30 or more. You come back the next week, Emerson. Those teams are 139 and 111 ATS, 56% over the last 2 decades. That's a big sample size. Also, this one blew me away. Home favorites who made the playoffs the previous year, this year they're 32 and 18 against the spread, 64%. So those are a couple good angles here to sweat your Jags.
That's what I said. Jags 6-3,
Yeah,
like
let's go.
ATS. Like
You've been calling all these games. What's your take on this? Are they going to cover this number?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a blowout victory in Jacksonville.
I
Come
haven't
on, man.
heard Emerson say the Jags are not
ask
gonna
the guy
cover the
wearing
game
the
yet this
Duval
year.
shirt here. Let's stay in the sunny state of Florida here. So the Dolphins coming off a bye, hosting the Raiders. Jules, maybe you actually do have a play for this game.
I mean, I had to play for the last game. You just don't like it, which is not my fault.
That's right.
So Miami, big home favorite. Vegas gets the 2 wins since the coaching change, but at home over the New York teams. This is when Vegas comes back to reality, obviously, and the spread suggests that, and it's been moving in Miami's favor. But if you look at this matchup-wise, and I said I think this is a better day for player props than it is betting sides, Vegas allows 135 yards per game on the ground. They rank 29th in run defense. Miami, you have Mostert, who's up at, I think, 54.5 yards, and then you're getting Achane back, who's set at 45.5 yards. It's a great matchup for both of them. How much is Achane going to be worked back in his return from the injury? That's kind of the question. But if you want to look at rushing attempts or rushing yards for either of those guys, whoever you think is going to be finishing the game is who you want to bet there, because they're probably going to be up big late and they're going to be running the ball. So it's a great spot to bet. I think Miami rushing props, whichever way you want to do it.
Josh, does Miami get its offense cranked up again after that bad showing against the Chiefs?
I think so. And again, I don't like laying huge numbers here, but Miami's got a lot of steam in this one. They open as low as -10. You're up to -13.5. Do you get to 14, which is a key number to be aware of? However, 69% bets, but more than 80% of the money is on Miami. That tells me it's not just a public play, but you have respected money moving that number. Also, Emerson, this gives me a lot of deja vu from last week when you saw Danny DeVito playing the Cowboys there. Remember the Cowboys? They're like -14. They got up to 17. What do they win by? Like 30? So to me, it's an angle here where you lay the points. Favorites off a bye, 56% ATS. I would actually, believe it or not, lay the points with Miami today.
Why do you like this game?
I like a play in this game, and I never even really noticed that this was available. Most receiving yards in this game, you can get Tyreek Hill at -120. I mean, he's won this play 5 times already in a game that the Dolphins have played so far this season. He's averaging just under 4 yards per route run. That is almost a yard higher than any qualified receiver in the NFL at this point here. I get that the Raiders are going to be playing from behind. They're going to have to throw the ball more. So unless you're really thinking that Devontae Adams is going to have a big blow-up game here, I think this is a great spot to back Tyreek Hill, have the most receiving yards in this game at -120. He just beats any secondary that is put in front of him here. I like that a lot at -120.
Jules, what stands out to you here with the Cardinals and Texans? Because Kyler Murray makes the Cards a much tougher team because he gives them all of a sudden a dynamic offense again.
Yeah, my instinct here would be to fade the Cardinals after looking good and finally getting a win. But now we're also talking about laying a lot of points with the Texans at home, who have had all these miraculous victories lately. So these teams are kind of mirroring each other in some ways. Obviously, Houston has a better long-term outlook for the season, given where they are in the standings, and Arizona's still probably going to be selecting very high in the draft. I would lean Houston. Like Jacksonville, I think Houston is going to be a popular survivor pick because you have to. That's what you're left with. So I guess I'm a little more confident in Houston winning the game than I am Jacksonville.
Okay.
But ultimately, I don't know if I can lay this many points with a Houston Texans team that's just been coming off these highs week after week. At some point, it's going to end.
In Arizona, 1-4 ATS on the road, Josh.
Yeah, I lean Texans with Julian in this one. Just looks like to me a 50-50 line move. Public split, they don't know what to do. They look at C.J. Stroud, who's playing great. Houston's kind of a good story here. But then also you have the Cardinals with Kyler Murray back, and that changes the whole complexion of that team. They have a big win last week. 50-50 bet split, yet this line is going to Houston. Houston was -4.5. Now they're 5.5, some books even at 6. So it tells me a little bit of respect to money Texans. The one thing that trips me up from laying the points with Texans, though, is that Kyler Murray does cover a lot of numbers as a dog. He's 1-0 ATS this year as a dog in his one start, but in his career, he's 21-11 against the spread, 66%. So I'll probably lean Houston. This isn't really a play for me just overall, but I would look toward a prop bet here. C.J. Stroud to throw 2 TDs or more. It's -160, a little bit juicy here, but he's gone over this number in 5 of his last 8 games.
Bukes, Giants are a mess right now. They're going to be facing the Commanders. Is there anything to like in this game in terms of betting?
I mean, I like the Commanders, but I'm not going to lay 9.5.
No.
I don't want to take a total in this one. I'm going to take Thibodeau to record over half a sack. I think it's the first time I've gotten out of such a prop like this because this game is just so absurd. But against a quarterback that's averaging almost 5 sacks taken per game, and he's under pressure on 52% of his dropbacks, I'll take my chances here with Thibodeau to record a sack.
What's the price on that? The juice on the sack?
I think it's +110.
Oh, wow, and you're getting plus money.
Yeah, so 9 sacks on the season for Thibodeau. I'll take that.
They don't have the Giants being they don't have a legitimate offense here, Jules,
Yeah.
with Tommy DeVito at quarterback. Like they're short on receiving pop, and then Saquon Barkley's easy to contain when the attention's all on him.
The Giants are averaging 11 points per game this season.
That is a wet.
They're like a
wet
really
fart.
good baseball team. I mean, I don't know what to do with this
Who
game.
wins in the head-to-head matchup? The New York Giants or the Texas Rangers?
Probably the Texas Rangers. I thought you were going to say the New England Patriots, and that's what we get. We are treated to that matchup next week. I'll tell you this now. I'm not on the show next week, so I'll just give you this. Giants, Patriots, under 35 next week. Bet it now. It's going to be like 29
28.
next week, so just do it now. The Giants, that game is in New York as well, or New Jersey. The Giants average 6.8 points per game at home this season. They're a baseball team.
Well, Sam Howell is getting better by the week for the Commanders. Does he make a whole lot of sense in the DFS department? We'll price check some salaries on DraftKings next. the Sweat, everybody. It is good to have you here. We've done a lot of that sports betting thing you like. So now we're going to poke over to the DFS side and hopefully help you make a money-making lineup. And here to help, Jeff Ulrich, Pierce Dietrich, two DraftKings Network contributors, two of my absolute favorites. So let's start under center here, Jeff Ulrich. Hut. How much money you spending at quarterback today, big man?
A fair amount. I mean, let's go up to Justin Fields at 6,900. He's going to be back in. Going to be playing the Detroit Lions, who he ran for 147 and 132 yards against in 2 games last year. Now, I don't even really know if Fields is going to run that much this year. He's actually passed the ball more. But I think his upside is just as big in this game. He's got DJ Moore, who obviously has gone off in the last 2 games that Fields started and finished. Now you got a Detroit team that, what did they allow? I mean, 1 million yards to the Chargers last week. So I like Fields in this matchup. I like DJ Moore quite a bit in this matchup. And I think that people will probably take it easy with Fields a little bit, especially in bigger field GPPs I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think Fields a really good sort of just under the radar target this week. And, I know like games got a little bit of attention because of the total, but yeah, give me Fields at 6,900.
And prior to his injury too, he and DJ Moore really started to connect on that deep ball. Well, Pierce Dietrich, your quarterback du jour in DFS today, brother.
I don't know if I can trust Fields. I know we can't trust Fields. And so I'll go with the more trustworthy guy, the guy that's getting a lot of attention this week in the big game with Kyler Murray. His first game back last week, about 250 passing, 6 rushes for 33 yards. It's very chalky. And Fields probably is a smarter play in GPPs, but Murray is in a similar situation where he's probably going to be playing from behind. He's going to be asked to do a lot, and the Cardinals definitely want to ask him to do a lot because they want to kind of showcase him so that they can trade him possibly in the offseason. That's really the only reason he is out there. It's a decent matchup. You just like what he can do on the ground, and he pairs well with a bunch of cheap wide receivers. It's very easy to stack this game.
Yeah, about $800 cheaper, too, than Justin Fields. I like that. What about at running back, Pierce?
As I mentioned, you want to stack the Texans-Cardinals game. So we're going to run it back with Devin Singletary, another very chalky, very popular play. Everyone is going to play these guys, but rightfully so. I mean, Pierce is out, and last week without Pierce playing, Singletary 30 carries for 150 yards and a touchdown. He's going to be out there basically carrying the load. And he's a good pivot from a lot of people that are going to play C.J. Stroud. If you play Singletary, you're hoping that he gets all the touchdowns and takes that away from Stroud and kills those lineups. Also, the Cardinals have been terrible against running backs on the ground and through the air. You got to find every which way to stack this game, and Singletary is the obvious value running back pick.
I mean, 2 weeks ago, he scores under 5 DraftKings points, and he follows that up with north of 26 the following week. Just as many fantasy managers had hopped off the bandwagon as well. DraftKings, let's go. Jeff Ulrich right now, running back, please.
I mean, we're talking about the 2 games that I like the most. Pierce talking about the Cardinals game. I like the Lions game, and I like sticking with that as well. Jahmyr Gibbs at 7K. I mean, even with David Montgomery back last week, he was still had an elite route rate. He was out there taking a ton of passes. I mean, 5 targets. At least 5 targets in each of his last 4 games. Now, he is a really elite receiving back, and the Bears have allowed the most receiving yards to opposing running backs in the league thus far. So I think when you look at this matchup, Chicago can stop the run. Chicago's actually got some pretty solid corners right now. They've been good at limiting the big plays. Where they're really weak against is exactly where Gibbs excels. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs at 7K could have a monster game. I think he could perhaps even in a perfect world even comes close to 100 yards receiving. I really think the Lions are going to attack with Gibbs this week. And at 7K, it just gives you another piece of this game, which I think is really good for stacking.
So, Jeff, how are you navigating the wide receiver position then today? You've got, very top heavy with 4 dudes that'll cost you at least 9K here.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't necessarily love the spot for. Tyreek Hill is fine. I feel like CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys may be running a little bit more. Diggs has an impossible matchup. What about Cooper Kupp? I think Cooper Kupp is really interesting this week for DFS. He's obviously had 3 poor games in a row, but Stafford got injured in one. They got blown out by the Cowboys. Let's not even talk about what happened last week or 2 weeks ago with Brett Rippon. Stafford's back this week. Kupp has had some great games against Seattle. He's gone for over 100 yards and a touchdown against them twice since 2019. This Seattle secondary, I mean, it's talented, but it is also just all over the place. I mean, allowing Sam Howell last week to go for well over 300 yards, almost win the game. I feel like Cooper Kupp here is in for a big game. I just don't think this secondary is going to be able to handle Cooper Kupp and the Rams. And if you look at the line for this game, it's moved towards the Rams. It's kind of telling us that. I think Cooper Kupp at 8,100, not going to be that high owned just because people don't trust him at this point. But I do think he's trustworthy in this spot. I think he's going to have a big game.
Pierce, which wide receiver's in a good spot today?
Greg Dortch.
What?
Now let me explain.
What? Yeah.
Obviously, it needs an explanation. Kyler Murray is going to be very popular. Singletary is very popular. Everyone in this Texas Cardinals game are going to carry a lot of ownership. You've got to find a way to differentiate. I even believe a lot of the Bears are going to be popular. So you've got to zig and zag here. And the reason you're playing Dortch is everyone wanted to play Michael Wilson. Wilson's going to be out. Who's going to pick up those long routes? Wilson, top 15 in A-dot. Dortch is going to take that role. Some people are going to go to Rondale Moore. Moore plays a different position. He's a slot, short route guy, and he's fine. But someone has to pick up Michael Wilson's workload. If you were like Michael Wilson earlier this week, you were banking on him hitting a big play. Dortch can hit that big play. He's going to be even lower owned. So it's kind of a dream matchup here. It was a bit of a wish to root for Wilson. It's a deeper wish now, but you're going to get lower ownership. And, or you can try to guess what Texan receiver is going to go off. I'd rather take Dortch.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be low ownership on Dortch because you may be the only one rostering Greg Dortch today.
Pierce is going to get Dortch in DFS this week.
1 catch for 2 yards on the season, 0.1 fantasy points per game average. That's okay, Pierce. Never give up. Hey, maybe, Pierce, that allows you to spend up then at tight end, right?
I don't really need to. You can just play Trey McBride, who had a massive game last week when Kyler Murray came back. This is kind of even if you're not stacking the Texans and the Cardinals, you just play Trey McBride. He's going to, again, with Wilson out, that's going to spread passes throughout the receiving core. McBride was already having a big role. And this is a Texans team that gives up a lot of points to tight ends.
All right, Jeff Ulrich, you're going to be navigating this tight end department today. Who are you going to be spending money on?
I mean, look, if Semi Fioka can catch a pass, I guess Greg Dortch could. I'm going to go with Michael Mayer at 2,700. We'll save some money. You can follow my advice, and you got to pay up for Cooper Kupp at wide receiver anyways, because no one's playing Greg Dortch. So Mayer comes into this game. He's playing almost every snap. He's coming off a game with Aiden O'Connell where he saw 5 targets. Mayer's got a ton of talent. And again, like the Dolphins, when you look at them from a setup perspective, really good elite corners, tend to push work towards more of the middle of the field, 11th most yards allowed to opposing tight ends, despite having played their bye. I think Mayer is just in a spot where the Raiders should be pushing him at this point. I think this 2,700 is actually too low for him in this spot. Again, he's coming off a 5-target game. We don't need him to do much here, but I really do think this is a player who has enough talent to potentially go for like 60 yards and a touchdown this week.
Yeah, being nearly 2-touchdown underdog, he'll end up with tons of pass attempts, likely in that game too, Jeff Ulrich. So DST, what are you going to do here, Jeff?
I'm going to go with the Jets. Why not? We basically get a turnover every game from Josh Allen. You can just mark 1 turnover down for the Jets. That's pretty much a given because Josh Allen is playing. But 2,600, this is one of the top 5 defenses in the league. Whenever you're getting an elite defense that's priced below, like the 3K mark, I think you really need to look. It almost doesn't matter the matchup, but I feel like people are just going to overlook this, but Josh Allen leads the league in turnovers. The Bills just fired their offensive coordinator. I mean, sure, maybe they can turn it around in a week, but like the Bills have problems beyond that. They're not really gelling as a team this year. They've got real issues on the defensive side. They're giving up bad field position. So I think the Jets at 2,600, who are top 5 in turnovers, really good play this week.
Since Pierce, it feels like you just want to leave like $30,000 of your salary on the table. Tell me why you're going to take the Panthers then at $2,200 at home against the Cowboys.
Come on. I am going to save some money. I'm going to follow Jeff with the JETS, Jets. It's an obvious play to take the Jets for all the reasons that Jeff just said. The Bills fling the ball around. They pass like crazy. They're very aggressive. And, not just through the air. They try to get extra yards. That turns into fumbles. That turns into interceptions. Joe Brady is the new offensive coordinator. Joe Brady, speaking of the Panthers, ran out of there in half of a season. He's not going to turn this thing around in a week. I love the Jets, and the Jets offense can't stay on the field. That means more defensive plays from the Jets, more opportunities to score points. It's the Jets.
All right, guys, so you do not believe it's a great bounce back spot for the Bills. We'll see what Steve, Jules, and Josh think about this AFC East clash between the Jets and the Bills today.
Network's Sunday pregame power-up.
All right, hour 2 of The Sweat is underway, everybody. Josh Applebaum, Steve Buchanan, Julian Edlow. I am Emerson Lazia. Michael Lombardi will join us in a few seconds live ahead of the Lombardi line, which will follow The Sweat here at 10 o'clock Eastern time. How about an in-depth breakdown of Eagles-Chiefs tomorrow night and what to do with Travis Kelce props as the parents are meeting. Taylor Swift's parents meeting the Kelce squad.
Wow.
Steve, very excited about that. But first, best bets for the rest of this Week 11 Sunday slate. A long road trip, Bukes, for the Bucs against a team in San Francisco that is coming off an impressive blowout defeat of the Jaguars. Is there a bet that stands out to you in this game on the West Coast?
Yeah, I mean, Julian's kind of alluded to this. This is another tough game here, double-digit, spread. That's really kind of tough to nail something down here. I'm going to take Debo to go over 64.5 rushing and receiving yards in this game at -115. Obviously, they kind of eased him back into everything last week here in his first week back. Had a 59 total yards in that game. Only played 71% of the 49ers total offensive snaps here and only saw 7 touches in that game. But like we mentioned earlier, Tampa Bay has one of the worst secondaries in the league, although Will Levis doesn't seem to know that. But this should be a great spot here for Deebo Samuel. He's the gadget guy in that offense here. He can get it done through the air, get it done on the ground here. I think they get him more involved in this game with a big spread like this. I think he goes over that number.
All right, Bucs are putting their perfect 4-0 ATS road record on the line this weekend, Josh.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning toward laying the points here with the 49ers. Again, I threw the trend at you guys earlier today, but these double-digit favorites are 9-3 against the spread. So I think if you're going to kind of play this angle today, you're going to lay it with Miami, you're going to lay it with Dallas, even though there has been some buyback Carolina, and you're going to lay it in this spot with San Francisco. And you're hoping to get 2 out of 3 to kind of stay with that trend of the 9-3 ATS. But again, big move here towards San Francisco. They open -10. You're up now to -13, -13.5. They have a pretty good bet split here. They're only getting 64% of bets, but 81% of the money. So it's not just an obvious, lay the points here. Public is still leaning pretty hard 49ers, but that larger share of dollars tells me it's not just public, it's sharp as well. I just don't think the offense at Tampa Bay can keep up with San Francisco. They're only averaging 20 points a game. San Fran's averaging nearly 30 a game, and San Fran is getting healthier. That's huge. They had a lot of injuries. They had kind of that swoon there, earlier this month. Now they're starting to play better. Those favorites who made the postseason the previous year are 64% ATS. So again, double-digit favorite. I'd look toward leaning it here with the 49ers.
Jules, 49ers are only -625 on the money line.
Not going to do that. I do think that one wins, as I can't even speak.
Are you? Do I need to go to them?
Here's the deal. We've been talking about it on the show.
My God, dude. Get it together.
We've been talking about it on the show. As soon as I turn the heat on in my house, it dries me out. I can't breathe.
You just
got to go.
So let's just address the elephant in the room. Sack props in this game. This whole segment's ruined now. I don't like the matchup running the ball for San Francisco. Tampa has a top 10 rush defense. You guys got to keep it together.
Jesus.
So, you guys are killing me. Like Steve said in the Giants game, I'm going to a sack prop. Chase Young is the new shiny toy they have. Over 0.75 sacks at -110. You guys can now speak.
Good job battling through.
Turn the heat off in your house. Freeze your family out, man. You can't be showing up on TV in this condition.
I agree.
It's going to be cold in Buffalo today.
They should
What about
not turn
crosswinds?
the
Any
heat
wins
on.
up there, Emerson?
Yeah, I mean, you tell me for Bills Jets, are the Bills in a bounce back spot here?
I don't know, man. The Bills just are not covering numbers. They're 0-6 ATS their last 6 games. Those who are interested in weather reports, Steve, don't have to worry about this one, buddy.
Oh,
it's about
great,
40
thanks.
degrees, 7-mile-per-hour winds. Not too bad here for Highmark Stadium. But I would lean toward taking the points with the Jets. Now, what's notable to me is the public is not quitting the Bills. They just are not covering numbers, yet the public still sees that Bills logo on the helmet. Josh Allen, got to lay the points. They remember them being such a good team the last few years. You're currently getting 61% of bets on the Bills. This line did move a little bit. It was Bills -7 up to 7.5. But to me, you're taking the Jets and the points are nothing. It's a divisional dog. Bills are on a short week. They played Monday night. So I'd look toward the points here. And again, I think this is a spot where maybe the Bills eke out a win, but Jets find a way to cover. Josh Allen, I think against the Jets in his career. He's only 3-5 ATS.
Yeah, he's not great, which is why the last segment, you even had Jeff and Pierce scooping up the Jets DST in DFS against the Bills today. Jules, are you good to go? You ready to rock?
I had a sip of water. I'm feeling a little bit better.
Wait, okay, it doesn't sound like it. Steve, I'll start with you. The Jets have offensive issues here. The Bills have a ton of issues. Let's not forget, New York beating Buffalo back in week 1 with a great defensive effort.
No, and I think they can get it done here again today. I mean, I'm with Josh. I'm going to be laying the points here with the Jets. This is going to be the 5th time this season, if this line holds, that the Bills have been at least 7-point favorites in a game. They are 1-4 ATS in those type of scenarios here. They're going to have to, if they're going to beat the Jets, they're going to have to do it on the ground here, and that's not really the strength of the Bills. James Cook has been okay. Latavius Murray is like emerging as more of the back here in this one, even though Cook was benched in that first drive there. But the Jets are a team that have been so good against opposing wide receivers. They are one of 2 teams that have held opposing wide receivers to under 1,000 receiving yards on the year. 924 total receiving yards for opposing receivers here for the Jets secondary. They have just been so incredibly good with all the turnover that Josh Allen's been doing. Like, what's Joe Brady going to come in and do? What's he going to change offensively that they weren't doing already? That, Dorsey was just a total scapegoat there. Yeah. You're going to see a same-looking offense that you saw last week for the Bills, this week here for them. I think the Jets cover in this spot here at 7.5.
Tim, maybe Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, keep this thing competitive. Help
Wilson
the Jets.
Good to go today. Yep.
Yeah, help the Jets keep it competitive.
The Jets might be able to keep it competitive because the Bills just aren't playing very well. But James Cook, I went to his rushing prop on Monday night in a good matchup against Denver. I was terrified. He got benched almost twice in the game for fumbles, but he got benched on the first play of the game. He had over 100 yards ultimately in the game. He got there. This matchup is very similar against a Jets team that ranks near the bottom of the league in rushing. Buffalo's going to, unveil a little bit of a different offense with the changes. I think they're going to have to run the ball, and you have to limit Josh Allen's mistakes. He's been making more mistakes than anyone. So run the ball, use James Cook. It's set at 55.5 again. I think it's a very good spot for Cook to have a huge game on the ground.
All right, let's go Seahawks-Rams right now, Bukes. Is there a bet on the DK Sportsbook you like with this one?
Yeah, this line's been moving here. This was basically a pick'em, I think, yesterday. Now it's in the Rams' favor at -2. I'm just going to stick with another player prop in this one. I think, Julian said it earlier, this is a good player prop week. I'm going to go DK Metcalf over 68.5 receiving yards in this one here. Tyler Lockett is expected to play in this game. He was questionable leading up to today. He was getting some limited practices in. But Metcalf's average distance of target currently sits at 14 yards. When he's being targeted by Geno Smith, he's going deep down the field with him here. He's gone over this number in 3 of his last 4 games here. Only went for 47 yards when these 2 teams played in week 1, but only saw 5 targets in that game. If Lockett is limited, obviously those targets are going to go towards Metcalf and maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba as well. But I think this is a very obtainable number for Metcalf to go over, seeing potentially a little bit higher of a target share than he did in week 1. So give me over 68.5 receiving yards.
All right, Stafford's back in this one. Does that change anything for you?
Absolutely. I like the Rams on the money line, Emerson. This one to me just screams sharp move toward the Rams. It makes no sense. Let's just start off from the fact of Seattle 6-3. The Rams are 3-6. So why is the team who's 3-6 favored in this matchup? Again, you got to give a couple points for home field, although not a great home field there in Los Angeles. But this is all about the line move to me, guys. This game opened, with Seattle laying 3. It's flipped all the way, as Steve mentioned, now to Rams -2. That's a huge dog to fave line move. Obviously, Stafford now expected to play is part of that move, but even after it was announced, you saw further movement toward the LA Rams. This is a really contrarian play. Rams are only getting 37% of bets, but 68% of the money. Big discrepancy there in favor of sharp action with the Rams. Also, you have the Rams off a bye. You look at favorites off a bye. They're 172 and 133 ATS, 56% the last 2 decades. So again, this is one of those, wrong team is favored. I remember back to the BC-Pittsburgh game on Thursday where BC had the better record. Pitt was a worse record, but they were favored and had a line move. I got to go with the Rams here. Just scream sharp play to LA for me.
When Seahawks lost to the Rams at home in week 1, Jules, but they are a better team than they were back then.
Yeah, they might be, but the Rams are playing well. I think if there's one game on the card this week where I want to trust the market and how it's moved, it is this one. And Josh just laid it out. You're kind of just picking the game at this point. You can play it on the money line, but it did move 5 points. It just moved through 0, so it doesn't look quite as egregious. But the market is saying that the Rams are the side in this one, and I do agree. I do trust the move. I think that the Rams, when they have Stafford in there, are a lot better than they're getting credit for, specifically with their ability to move the ball, which they didn't have when Stafford was out. So the market does kind of tell us everything we need to know about this game, and the betting splits on this one are kind of the most egregious to show that the professional side is the Rams, and I would trust it.
All right, let's wrap up this segment, Steve, with Sunday night football here. Vikings at the Broncos. Suddenly a game between two teams that have playoff hopes, especially the Vikings. Broncos a field goal favorite at home right now.
This kind of reminds me of the Packers-Chargers game. I feel like it's just perfectly set all across the board here. Like 3-point favorites here for the Broncos, over-under total of 41. It's hard to really kind of get a feel for this one here because you have two teams that, like you mentioned, over the past couple of weeks have just looked dramatically different from what we saw in the beginning of the year. Vikings for obvious reasons here because of injuries. Broncos just because they've been flat out playing better at this point. If I was going to take a side in this one here, I'd probably go with the Vikings on the money line in this one to upset the Broncos here. I really like what Josh Dobbs has been doing. Obviously, he's been very elusive. It's a whole different offensive scheme that we have here for the Vikings. Having a mobile quarterback is something we haven't had in Minnesota for 5-6 years now, it feels at this point. Jordan Addison is fantastic as well. Again, I don't have a real tight feel for this game, but I think Vikings on the money line at plus 124 would be where I'd lean.
So, all right, so that would be their sixth win in a row for the Vikings if they're able to pull it off in the Mile High, Josh.
I'm going to go the other way. I like the Broncos in this one. I'll go Broncos money line. Jumped out to me just as a classic fade the trendy dog play. The Josh Dobbs hype is ridiculous. It's warranted. The guy deserves everything he's getting. It's a great story, but I think that story's getting a little bit overblown. That narrative is becoming very, very popular, very trendy. You're getting the Vikings in a primetime game getting 65% of bets. Anytime I see a dog getting 2/3 of bets, automatically I look to go the other way. Give me the Broncos here at home. Only 35% bets, 50% money, mile high advantage. I got Broncos on the money line.
All right, we got one more game on the slate to tackle. Super Bowl rematch, baby. Let's see where you guys sit, who you are favoring when the Chiefs and Eagles clash tomorrow night. right, usually we have like a specific prime time pick segment in this show, right? But we hit Sunday Night Football before because tomorrow night, Monday Night Football is so big, it really does deserve its own segment. So let's chase or fade here, the Super Bowl rematch between the Eagles and the Chiefs. This is how these two teams have looked this season. Two of the best, obviously, in the league. Eagles 8-1, Chiefs 7-2. I don't know. It's a rematch, like we've mentioned, of last year's Super Bowl. Chiefs win that one, despite an amazing game by Philadelphia quarterback Jalen Hurts, who really just hasn't looked totally healthy here this season, Steven. So which quarterback props or DFS captain are you chasing, Hurts or Mahomes?
Yeah,
Who has the better game?
I'm going to go Mahomes over his passing yard prop at 285.5 here. I mean, for somebody who hasn't exceeded 241 passing yards in 2 straight weeks, they're obviously not worried about his numbers in this game here, and that's because the Eagles secondary is basically a pass funnel at this point. They're allowing an average of 279 passing yards per game, and now we're getting Mahomes off a bye here. 2 weeks ago, it was said that before the game he was having flu-like symptoms. Then they go across the pond, and he's not feeling good there either. But the Chiefs just run the ball only 39% of the time. The Eagles are very good at stopping the run. I can't imagine the Chiefs are going to try to establish it here in that game against the Eagles because that has been one of the best run defenses in the league. They're going to do what they do best, and that's Mahomes airing out the ball. Give me over his passing yards for this game.
Jules, you were showing flu-like symptoms in the last segment of this show.
I was able to grind through it stronger than Mahomes, though. I mean, he didn't get the win in Denver.
What are the chances you want to side with Jalen Hurts here?
No, I am going to side with Steve here. I think that the Mahomes play is the way to go. Philly's been bad in that pass defense.
Yeah.
They're ranked 28th in the NFL in passing yards allowed, and it's been dropping consistently week by week. They're giving up over 306 passing yards per game over the last 3 games. Now you're going to go on the road to Arrowhead on Monday Night Football and go up against a Chiefs offense that hasn't been up to its standards so far. Now they come out of the bye week. This is probably when they're going to look pretty good. So, I mean, Philly coming off the bye, that's a good chance for Hurts to get healthy. We're going to see these teams both pretty close to their best, but I think Kansas City's best is a level above Philly's best, particularly when you put them at home in this game.
All right, Josh, and really when you're looking at these teams, the Chiefs defense now appears to be the better group on every level when you compare the two sides.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest difference last year to this year. Give a ton of credit to Steve Spagnuolo defensively. Again, it was always KC. They score a ton. Can their defense just be okay to limit the other side? Now they're different. They're just very well balanced. Obviously, you have no Tyreek Hill here, but still you're seeing Mahomes make do with some of these other wide receivers. But I think one thing that jumps out to me, picking between these two quarterbacks, Hurts and Mahomes, Julian and Steve mentioned it, very different in terms of passing yards for both teams. KC is 5th best in passing yards allowed, only 176 a game. Julian mentioned this, Philly is 28th. They're allowing more than 250. So I do lean a little bit to Mahomes over in this spot. Passing touchdowns over 1.5, it's a little pricey. It's minus 215. But remember, Mahomes had 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts, I think if you're playing him, you're going to go anytime touchdown. He had 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Can he give you, the brotherly shove, the tush push, whatever you want to call it? Can he get one of those? I think that's definitely doable. He's plus 130 anytime touchdown. So to me, the play is backing Mahomes, and I actually like Kansas City quite a bit on the money line. Another fade the trendy dog play for tomorrow night.
Okay, well, Mahomes' top target we all know is Travis Kelce, and I know you are a Swiftie. Steve, I know you are not, but when you compare his stats, when Taylor Swift is in attendance...
We actually have a graphic for this.
There is a graphic for this because it is drastic, the difference, Steve.
Wow.
4 games Taylor has been there, 4 games without. Look how many more receptions he has. Look how many more receiving yards he has. Touchdowns is the absolute same. Now, listen, she's got a show in Brazil tomorrow night. She's not going to be there, okay?
Oh, no.
The big story here are the parents meeting, all right? That is a huge moment in a man's life, especially imagine when you're as good of a football player as Travis Kelce is playing on the biggest stage in the world on that night. So, will he be impressing his future in-laws? These props that currently sit at 75.5 receiving yards, anytime touchdown at minus 120, which one would you chase?
I'm not answering this question because the way that you presented it is completely unnecessary. It's stupid, and it has nothing to do with his on-field. No, don't even interject.
I want you to know something. The yardage down to 74.5 right now.
I don't care.
Swift under steam. She's not going to be there,
No,
Steve.
I don't care. And you are a part of the problem, too, because you're feeding into him.
Can't argue with the stats, though.
I
Yes,
can't
no,
argue with the
the
stats.
market is believing in the Taylor stats.
Different? Do teams cover him different because Taylor Swift is here? If he was dating Olivia Rodrigo, would this be a big thing? No, but it has to be Taylor Swift.
I
because
don't think it's that they cover him different. It's that he's trying harder to impress.
Yes.
them
You're
because
gonna
he's
join
there,
them
right?
too?
Now you've got the
I'm just giving
parents.
I'm just giving you
I'm
what the
telling you right now,
narrative is.
ask somebody else because I'm not answering this
Well,
question.
here's the
as it's
interesting
presented.
part of the
No,
situation.
I'm not.
You're saying that Taylor Swift isn't going to be
Oh,
there,
this
but
is
their
not-
parents are going to meet.
That's
taking too
yes,
much
and the
time.
parents
Who
are
has
going
their,
meeting? What are
who
we
has
gonna
their
do?
parents meet without them being there?
I
Like
don't
when
know.
you first met your wife's parents, I assume your wife was there.
Yeah, she was.
So
she
that's
was
weird.
there. Yeah.
It's
I had a
weird
few
that we're still
beverages
talking
because
about
I was a
this.
little nervous.
I
was
thought
a
this
little
was a betting. I
nervous
thought this
to
was a
meet Big
betting
Dan.
show.
Anyway, Travis Kelce minus 110 anytime touchdown score. I like the matchup. I
Great,
think he
move on.
scores.
I mean, okay,
Don't
because
ask
when she is there, clearly defenses are starstruck, so
Clearly.
they don't
Yeah.
cover him as
Totally.
tightly because they keep looking up
like
and
when
seeing
you
her
do
do
a
all the
show with
secret
Steve.
handshakes with Mahomes' wife.
Starstruck.
Exactly, Emerson. You know, again, we thought this was going to be hyped up as the parents' meeting. She's going to be there.
This segment
She's now
sucks.
not going to be there. And again, this is the steam is coming to the under with her not expected to be there. I would look toward the catches
Steamy.
though. 7.5 under receptions. It's minus 140. You can get plus money on the over, plus 110. Kelsey did have 6 for 81 in the Super Bowl with a touchdown here. But again, with her not being here,
Stop
all
it,
jokes
Joe.
aside, the data proves he doesn't play as well.
I
Emerson.
know,
He's
that's
very
what I'm
angry.
saying, and like
the numbers
sometimes-
don't lie.
Numbers do not
The
lie.
storyline here is clearly the parents meeting without one half of the couple there.
Yeah.
That's very strange.
I mean, that's how powerful she is because she can say, Mom and Dad, I'm going to send you to Kansas City and do me a favor, meet Travis's parents for me.
Are we going
Okay?
to talk about the game or?
Yeah, sure. What
Yeah,
about
let's do
Chaser
that.
fading A.J. Brown to have a 100-yard game? What do you think?
Oh, is his wife going to be there? Who gives a crap? A.J. Brown. Okay, we're going to go. I'd like him to go over 100 plus receiving yards. It's set at 84.5. If you want to go for at least 100 yards. You get that at plus 160. You take an alternate receiving line in this game here. Chiefs secondary has been solid, but they're allowing an average of 133 receiving yards per game to opposing receivers. Brown also went for 131 receiving yards against the Jets. I mean, this is kind of someone who's been matchup proof at this point. If you take that 131 receiving yards against the Jets, that accounts for 14% of the total yards that they've allowed to all wide receivers this season. It also accounts for 48% of the Eagles' total air yards this year. Give me him to go over 100 receiving yards. That's analysis that people came here for, not because of some blonde female singer that everybody is obsessed with.
Whoa!
Let me throw one more at you.
whoa.
Don't even say
Oh,
it.
Is
go
this-
ahead.
I'm just thinking out loud.
Go ahead.
Is this a fate of Kelsey because he's disappointed and sad that she won't be in the stands? He had his hopes built up. I'm going to play great for my girl. Maybe we're not official yet. We'll become official after the big win against the Eagles.
Well, my future
But no.
in-laws, there's talk of marriage already. I would crap myself if they were up
Listen,
there.
if we don't continue the segment, I'm done with the segment and I'll leave. So continue on or I'm leaving.
if I could have gotten through the last segment with my flu-like symptoms,
No,
we're going
this
to
is
need you to get through
No,
this
this is
one.
totally different. Nope.
I mean, his 6-game 100-plus receiving yard stretch was just snapped in his last outing against the Cowboys. We're talking about A.J. Brown, not Travis Kelce here. Would you chase him getting back on track with a 100-yard game?
It seems like the obvious play. Again, he's gone over this number in 6 of his last 7, but you got to respect that Kansas City pass defense. They're only giving up 176 a game. He did have 6 for 96 and a touchdown in the Super Bowl, but obviously the attention here is on Brown. I'm looking toward his partner in crime here, Devonta Smith. I'm going over 55.5 receiving yards for Devonta Smith. It's kind of lurking in the shadows. I don't hear a lot of people talking about the Devonta Smith prop here, but it's over minus 130. Again, he had a great Super Bowl against the Chiefs, 7 for 100. So I think if the Chiefs key on A.J. Brown, you got to stop him. Does this leave Devonta Smith one-on-one on the other side? I think that's definitely a playable number. I'll go Devonta Smith, 56 or more receiving yards.
All right, Bukes, let's talk game bet here, okay? Because in the past, it's always been the Chiefs have been terrible at covering, right? But I believe they're 3-1 ATS at home, and we know that's one of the toughest environments to play in around the NFL.
Well, here's something interesting, too. This is the first time this season that the Eagles are underdogs this year. Since 2021, when Hurts was the full-time starter, obviously he got into the mix late in 2020, but since 2021, when Hurts is a full-time starter for the entire year, Eagles are 3-7 ATS as an underdog. This has just not been a spot where they have performed well. So I'm going to kind of stay away from this one here. I'm going to go over the total here of 45 points. Philly's one of the fastest-paced teams in the league, only trail Cleveland, which seems really odd that they're the fastest-paced team, but only trail them in terms of pace of play in the NFL. Mahomes should have have a lot of success through the air in this game, and I feel like they're going to be throwing the ball a lot in this one here. I like the over in this one here. I think that's the play, but I just thought it was very interesting that the Eagles really have not performed well as underdogs over the past 3 years now.
All right, Jules, what's your game bet here? Both these teams coming off bye, too.
Yeah, favorite bet of the week by far, Chiefs. Anytime you get in Mahomes at a field goal or less at home, that's something that I have to back. Andy Reid, here it comes again.
Coming back.
Here it comes again. Andy Reid, off the bye in his career, is 27-4. This is a spot that I want to back.
All right.
I literally got over that extremely quickly.
Yeah, no, you did. I'm impressed.
Professional over here.
I'm impressed. I'm very impressed that Michael Lombardi has agreed to join the program live here coming up after this break. Maybe we'll ask him about Travis Kelce without Taylor Swift in the stands.
Don't waste his time.
Yeah.
Back here on The Sweat, everybody. It's time to really get this party started with one of my best friends, one of my biggest supporters and fans. He's a huge dog guy, knows a thing or two about football. So Michael Lombardi, kind enough to take some time out of his Sunday morning and have a little chat about the pigskin. Good to see you, Mike.
Oh, it's great to see you. I mean, who are you hiding from? Are you in witness protection with that beard? I mean, what are you?
What do you mean?
Here?
Oh, don't tell me you're going to be like my
obviously-
wife now and crap on me because of how
hiding?
handsome I look.
Yeah, right. You must be hiding from somebody. I can tell you that. There's
Yeah.
no question. Change your look, change your costume, the whole thing.
Yeah,
I get it.
You know me well, Michael Lombardi. You also know the NFL well. And right now, we know Joe Burrow here, right? He's done for the season, Michael. But let's not sleep on the fact that the NFL is like investigating the Bengals after they didn't put the guy on the injury list. How much trouble are they going to get in for this?
Well, I think if you go back and watch the Houston game, on the second play of the Houston game, or in the first series, he kind of throws a ball and his hand comes down towards his left side, his right hand, and Orlando Brown is getting pushed back into the pocket. And you see him kind of get his hand caught between his body and Orlando Brown's big body. And then when he walks off, he kind of shakes. You could see him shaking his wrist at that point. But he played 3-4 more quarters, threw the ball really well. So, you don't think anything of it. Initially, when you saw it, you said, oh, he might be hurt. But then you say, no, he's not. I don't know if they can, prove anything from that. If he was not limited in practice, we would have known that. Mm-hmm. And, but then for some reason, he couldn't throw or grip the ball. And I can't find the play where he could have gotten hurt in the game. So, this is going to be an investigation. I'm not sure they're going to do a good job of handling it. I mean, look.
Why is that? Why do you think they won't do a good job?
They investigated Deflategate, and they never even came up with the right answers. So, I mean, I don't know who leads these investigations. I mean, it looks bad, but, unfortunately for the Bengals, he's going to be out for the year, and now it's going to highlight their problems, right? So. Yep. The Bengals team is a team that leads the league or was second in the league in passing attempts. They were 31st in rushing attempts. So what does that tell us as bettors and as people that study the league is They put the game in the quarterback's hands. Well, you can't put the game in Jake Browner's hands. And they don't really run the ball effectively. So it's a double-edged sword that's going to create a lot of problems for them.
All right, so somehow you're telling me the Patriots will probably get blamed for this, but there's no injury.
Probably will.
Yeah, right? There's no injury to Mac Jones. He just really isn't that good right now as we do bring it to New England. Have we seen the last of him with the Patriots after this season, Michael?
I don't know about after this season. I think, to me, he needs a break from playing. I mean, the interception over in Germany was as bad as anything I've ever seen, particularly considering that, it was an easy throw. I mean, it's a throw my grandson Dominic at 6 years old could make.
Oh, wow. He's a gunslinger, huh?
He is a gunslinger, and he threw it really poorly. And I think Mac is at a point now where he's taken so many hits that he's not comfortable in the pocket and he doesn't read the pocket and he's in a rush to get the ball out of his hands. Now, this happens to a lot of quarterbacks when they get hit too much. In fact, it's happened to Kurt Warner when he was at the New York Football Giants. And then he went to Arizona and kind of got his feet back underneath of him. I think he's going to need a break. I really do. As for next year, I can't predict the future on that. But I do believe that this year it's going to be hard for them to put him back into a game when that you look at this and you say, wait a second, he hasn't produced, and where's the team's confidence in him?
Yeah, can he be saved? Can he return to that rookie form when he was a Pro Bowler? And I know he's a Pro Bowler because the 20 guys ahead of him dropped out, but he still played his best his first year.
Well, I don't know if he can do that. I mean, you never say never. When you see it on tape, the guy has done well before in the past. But right now where he is, he's got a long way to go. And a lot of it's going to come down to his ability to want to be coached, his ability to admit that he's got some issues, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's a key component of all this, right? You've got to be – one of the key things in football today is coachability. Are you coachable? Are you willing to admit that, perhaps – you need to work on some things.
Okay, so if he's here next season, the question is, will he be coached by Bill Belichick? What's Bill's future look like in New England?
I mean, I don't – look, when you have had as much success as Bill and the Patriots have had, I think certainly they're disappointed in this season. As Dietrich Wise said, we have a bad record. We're not a bad team. And it's not one person's fault for that record. they're 1-5 in games under 7 points. They've not had any chance to win a close game this year. And some of those games, if they flipped a little bit, they could be much better, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But when the expectations are Super Bowl or nothing, fans have less tolerance. And so, the only person that can answer that question, frankly, is Mr. Kraft, because he's got to see where this is going. And if we had a quarterback that made a lot of plays, if we had Josh Allen, what would we look like? If we had someone not as good as Josh Allen, what would we look like? And then you've got to figure out the problems. The most important thing in football is, why did we win or why did we lose? And answering those questions are determining what goes forward.
Can I ask you, though, let's just say hypothetically, if he's not in New England, where could you see him potentially coaching next?
Look, I don't have a crystal ball. I know you do.
Yes, I do.
But I don't. I know. And you tend to overreact. I don't. You do. That's why we did that segment, Overreaction.
Yeah.
You enjoyed it tremendously.
I did.
My sense of it is I don't know how many times a 6-time Super Bowl coach gets to the open market.
Okay.
If in fact he does get to the open market, and I'm not saying that. So I don't know where he could coach, but I know that there would be a lot of interest in him because, look, there was interest in Ron Rivera when he got let go, and he's never won a Super Bowl. There was a ton of interest in Sean Payton. He's won one Super Bowl. So I think when you get a coach with great experience who still has the urgency and the love of coaching, I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities.
Okay, bigger fraud right now in the NFL, the Jaguars or the Bills?
I would say this. The Jaguars are a more talented team than the Bills. So when you break down what's happened to the Jags since really, if you break down the career of Trevor Lawrence and you see that he's only had one game of throwing the ball over 9 yards per attempt, one. He's had 23 games throwing under 7. Like, his career hasn't been to what we hoped it would be. But I think the Bills, because of their injuries and because of their talent around Josh Allen, I think the expectations was rather high for the Bills. I think Jacksonville is a little bit more of a fraud team because they are talented.
All right, what do you have coming up on the Lombardi line after us? We're giving you this massive audience as a lead-in. Will you be breaking down Travis Kelce's stats when Taylor Swift is in attendance compared to not in attendance?
I think our audience, Emerson, is we pay attention to it, unlike you, and they don't want to hear that, right? So they want to hear about the games, and they want us to break down the games, Stormy and I, and they want us to they're not going to listen to who we want to pick, but they're going to listen to the information that we ultimately can provide, and that has nothing to do with Travis Kelce or who's dating him or who's going to be in attendance on Monday night.
All right, you were getting a thumbs up here from known Taylor Swift hater Steve Buchanan, by the way, in the studio. So well done, Michael Lombardi. It was so great having you. Thanks for making some time for us. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving this week.
Same to you. Same to you. It's always great to see you, and it's always great to overreact with you. Thank you so much, Emerson.
I'll FaceTime you soon because you can leave FaceTime voicemails now, and I know you're excited about that.
I've got you blocked. Don't worry.
Yeah, thanks, man. We'll see you later, Michael. So stay tuned, everybody, as the pregame power-up continues. The Lombardi line coming up. Also, Thanksgiving, we're going to break down some Thanksgiving games. Which side dishes are our analysts chasing and fading? Steve Buchanan, what do you got?
Steve, when it comes to Thanksgiving, what's your favorite dish and what's your least favorite dish?
Yeah, I'm a turkey guy. Turkey and stuffing and cranberry. Those are like the three core. You got to have those. I'm actually doing that the day before because I'm going away on Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's fair.
The family's all getting together just on Thanksgiving Eve, and we're all going to do our dinner then.
So we got to come full circle here. I got to join the festivities that we have.
Yeah, I know you should.
But don't give me any green bean casserole. That is the worst dish imaginable on Thanksgiving.
Never had that.
We'll keep it that way too. We'll keep it that way.
Is that a Boston thing or what?
I don't know. It's always been shoved in my face every year, and it's like I want nothing to do with it. I absolutely want nothing to do with it. It is awful. Thank you. See, I knew it. You and we got a little thing going on here.
I was on a Rainmakers pack break earlier this week. You guys hanging out, you hitting the hardcore stuff. That's what actually the kind of conversation I love. And also green bean casserole with the little crunchy onions on the top. What's going on with you?
No, that sounds awful.
Really?
Yep.
So it won't. There will be no green bean casserole on your table as you're watching Packers Lions next week. I know you like the Lions this week, but how much do you like the Lions next week? They're good at home. We've already mentioned that in the show.
Yeah, I do like the under in this game, under 44.5. I mean, Packers have been really good against opposing quarterbacks, just over 200 passing yards allowed per game. Detroit's going to find success running the ball. You can definitely run the ball against the Packers there, but Green Bay is still one of the lowest scoring teams in the first half of games. They're averaging 5.4 points in the first half. That's sandwiched in between offensive juggernauts, Giants and Patriots. That's how bad that they've been in the first half. Give me the under in that game.
All right, we'll hit on the rest of those games next, including a Black Friday showdown between divisional foes. We'll wrap up the sweat coming up. right, we're going to stuff your faces now with some Thanksgiving bets. We're going to look ahead here, right? Because Thanksgiving's on Thursday, and this show doesn't come back around onto televisions until Saturday. We just hit Packers-Lions, last segment here. But there are 2 other games and also a Black Friday game this year. Commanders-Cowboys, 4:30. Thanksgiving afternoon. I don't know if you're like a family that eats earlier in the day and maybe you're going to be snoozing a little bit, or if you're still in the pregame ritual here before you start feasting. What do you like right now looking at the board? It's early. Again, Commanders, Cowboys.
It's early, Emerson, but I got 2 things for you. One, my wife's in-laws are coming to my mom and dad's Thanksgiving on Thursday. This could get a little out of hand.
Is this the first time they're meeting?
They met at the wedding.
That was the
things
first
went
time?
well, but I don't think they were their true selves.
Wait,
they were just
the first time they met was at your wedding?
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, geez. So this.
Well, they're divorced families. This is her stepdad, her dad, and her stepmom. It's complicated.
Okay, we don't have to get into that.
Right
but guess what? Both Josh and his wife were at their wedding, so they were both together when their parents met.
Exactly.
Unlike this Kelsey Swift
Stop!
situation.
He's gonna walk off set, and we need him for the next 9 minutes.
But I'm gonna get Steve even more angry. I got a Thanksgiving system for you, Emerson. Oh. You know what it is?
It doesn't even make sense.
Here it is. Are you ready?
So
Are you ready?
Win.
Thanksgiving chalk favorites. Favorites on Thanksgiving since 2005 are 34-18 against the spread, 65%. Now, what's the theory behind it? Is it that they're expected to win, they're at home, the other team that's a dog, maybe they're not winning the game, they give up, they say, get out of here, I want to go eat my turkey. I don't know what the exact angle is, but it's hard to argue with the fact that these chalk favorites have done well. So Emerson, 2 that caught my eye. Lions, they're getting, and again, the early market is very, kind of subtle right now. 80% of bets, probably going to be a public play, but taking the Lions -7.5 down to 1.5, go through a couple key numbers there. And I'll link that up with that Black Friday game, taking Miami 6.5 down to a pick'em. So, Steve, can you believe it? I gave you a Thanksgiving Day system. I bet you didn't expect that from me.
Steve's not going to talk. So my question here would be, how much different is the Thanksgiving system than just a Thursday system? Is it just Thursday games, short week games? Is it the same?
I'm going to have to dig into that, Julian.
Dig into it like some green bean casserole, baby.
Thursday night favorites on a short week that does benefit the team that doesn't have to travel, is expected to win.
Hey, we finally had an over. We finally had a Thursday
finally had an over.
Maybe it's just short week favorites.
Jules, it's currently a 9.5 point spread. Dallas Cowboys 9.5 point favorite at home. 45.5 is the current total right now. So is this a game like you approach now, or do you wait until after what happens today?
For the most part, looking at the Thanksgiving board, I would probably wait and see what happens today. Maybe the Niners-Seattle game, maybe that's when you want to bet early. But I was hoping Dallas would get down to 8.5, because then that's a teaser leg that you can use with the Lions. I would be surprised if it gets there. But again, we have games on Sunday. You never know what could happen.
49ers and Seahawks. That division is going to come down to these 2 teams. This will be the first of 2 meetings that they still have on the schedule, Steve. So right now, which team would you back in this divisional rivalry?
I agree with Julian. I think if you're going to be back in the Niners, you should do it now at this point. I mean, unless something drastic changes today with the 49ers, like Geno Smith has been one of the worst quarterbacks performing under pressure. He's averaging just 4.5 yards per pass attempt in that scenario. That is one of the lowest in the league. The only people that he's ahead of, and wait till you hear all these barn burners, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, and Bryce Young. That's the same company that he's in, throwing the ball downfield when he comes to under pressure here. That's what the 49ers do best. They just get this pressure on opposing quarterbacks here. Obviously, kind of a funky line here at 4.5, but, I would not be surprised if the 49ers win this game by multiple possessions in this one. So if you're looking to back the Niners, just take this one now at 4.5. Obviously, I think this is going to be on the rise.
Does line feel a little funky to you?
Little funky here. I would notice, or just mention that of all these lines, really nothing's moved yet. It's so early. You're going to have to, and again, you're taking a chance right now. You can bet these things now and think you're going to get a better number, or is there an injury? Does something happen where the line goes the other way? So to what the guys have been saying, I would recommend waiting a little bit. But the one that jumped out to me, that San Fran-Seattle game, is the over there. It opened 43.5. It's up to 44. That's only a half-point move, but it does tell you that, when the wise guys had these games ready to go, and the difference between wise guys and public bettors are that wise guys set their own numbers. They're going to compare their numbers to what the books have. So it tells me that maybe when the San Francisco total opened up for Thanksgiving, immediately that got hit to the over. Right now, 65% bets, 80% money to the over. So that's kind of my early lean, aside from this trend toward the favorites.
Does the spread for the Black Friday game between the Dolphins and the Jets. Does this still feel maybe a little too short to you right now, Jules? -6 Dolphins on the road.
I mean, it's a pretty big road favorite in the division in kind of a spot that we haven't seen before. Josh doesn't have any Black Friday trends because there's never been a Black Friday NFL game.
We have to start a new trend.
I was going to say,
3 o'clock on Friday.
We will start some trends here.
1-0.
It is, yeah. It is a weird.
Faded, you know.
It is a weird spot. It's a weird kickoff time. I would feel more comfortable laying this with Miami if it was just a normal week, I guess, going on the road. But that said, the Jets are one of those teams that get shredded on the ground, just like Vegas. So I already mentioned Miami rushing props. Mostert's 54.5. A-Chain is 45.5. It's going to be back-to-back good weeks for Miami running the ball, and particularly you go on the road to a place like the Meadowlands on a short week, you're probably going to be running the ball again. So I'll just echo everything I said today about Miami's running game against Vegas and say you can probably be in a good spot to do that again on Friday.
Well, let me pose this question to you because this is what I was thinking about. I like the Jets today. What does it do for the line if they win today? Because I think that would change it.
If the Jets win as over touchdown underdogs, then yeah, that's going to move that number. So who would you like in this game, Miami or the Jets?
I would like Miami.
So then waiting is a good thing.
Yeah.
And you'll get yourself a better number.
What if Miami wins by 40 today? You know, are you going to get a worse?
But I don't think
how much is that going to do as the biggest favorite on the board?
It may not change anything.
I don't think that would change anything. I think if the Jets win today, that would be where the change comes through. If Miami wins today by 40, that does nothing.
Is the Jets win over a struggling Buffalo team that impressive when we've already seen them beat them back in week 1?
That's the thing, though. Like you're saying they're struggling, but they're still 7.5-point favorites in this game, right?
Gotcha.
So to me, it's like that would be a bigger shock if the Jets win this game, even outright or whatever, against when they were perceived to be over touchdown favorites. Whereas if Miami blows out a team that they're already double-digit favorites against.
Gotcha. And that's why I was saying we want to get to the Niners early if that's the side you like, because the public perception is that the Seahawks should beat the Rams, even though the market is telling us something completely different. So if it goes the way that the market is indicating it will, that's what could get a little bit of move. And then the Niners are double-digit favorites. Again, if we're going to say that Miami can win by 1 million and it's not going to move that, then Tampa can win. They can beat Tampa by a bunch and it won't move the line. But the Seattle side of it is why I want to get in early on the Niners if you like them Thursday night.
So then just kind of to piggyback off of this, for me at least, and this is what I'm doing, depending on who you like in that Buffalo-New York game, you're either betting this now or you're waiting. So for me, I'd be waiting on this line then because I do like the Jets today.
All right, Josh, can you help us find some early Black Friday deals here on DK Sportsbook? Looking at this game, looking at the odds board.
Yeah, I think again you can kind of play that walk the tightrope, kind of chance of betting it early and hoping the number goes your way. To me, the play would be teasing down Miami 6.5 down to basically a pick 'em. Now the total's interesting too because Miami puts up a lot of points. However, this thing's only 42.5. You can maybe shop around, get a 43. You have seen these obviously. This is actually a 3 o'clock game. That's a weird one. So you don't have to worry about the primetime under system match. But you do have NFL divisional unders outdoor hitting at a really high rate. That could be a sneaky contrarian under. I think these teams played the last week of last year. I think it was like an 11-6 game, really low scoring. Things have changed obviously, but maybe lean to a contrarian under there and teasing down Miami.
No sweat. Bet time. Let's go. Jules, go ahead while you're not coughing.
Yep. So I'm going to lay the points with the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. The trend here is obviously that starting tight ends when your parents of your girlfriend are meeting, but the girlfriend is not in attendance, have never lost. So it's an undefeated trend. No, I mean, Andy Reid off the bye, 27-4. Chiefs at home. They have a good defense. And the Eagles' defense is the perfect scenario for Mahomes to get his through the air. I think the Chiefs roll on Monday Night Football.
Bukes.
Yeah, taking that alternate line on Breece Hall. I talked about it earlier in the show here. Go over 100 rushing and receiving yards at plus 160 in this game here against the Bills. Bills have allowed the second most receiving yards to opposing running backs, 49 per game, 4.5 yards per carry average on the ground. Breece Hall, if the Jets are going to win this game, they need to hand the ball to Breece Hall. I think they do that here, and it goes over 100 receiving and rushing combined.
Bring us home, big man.
We're going a mile high, Emerson. Let's go. You better bring your resuscitator or something. It's going to be tough to breathe up there, but we're going to sweat the Broncos.
That's a bad place for Julian to be
right
it's
going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
Jules will sweat this one at home. We want to keep him safe for healthy for the show. But I like the fact that you're just fading a trendy dog here. All the Dobbs hype, it's all warranted, but he's getting 65% of bets. Public's all over Vikings. Lions going to Broncos. Broncos money line.
All right, everybody. Have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy every minute you can with your family. We will all be back here, most of us, next weekend on The Sweat. Saturday morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time. We'll see you then.
Stay tuned for more DraftKings Network Sunday pregame power-up.